question for you. What are you learning from this whole Trump caper? What are you taking away from it? What have you developed as new ideas as a result of all of this stuff that's been going down with Trump? Please let me know in the comments section, but let me tell you what I've learned. I've learned that I was right about everything all along and always have been and always will be. And so what I'm learning is how to teach the world my truths as effectively as possible. That's the only thing I have left to learn. Obviously, I'm just kidding. That's not what I take away from it. In fact, that's what the Trumpists have taken away with it. That's what the whole Trump caper is about. We were right all along. And anybody who disagrees with this proves that we're right. It's a self-winding movement. I've been calling it that for years, not because I have solved reality. But a self-winding movement is one that no matter how you shake it, it gets wound up. So if you think they're right, that proves they're right. And if you think they're wrong, it proves that they're right. Either way, they win. It's heads I win, tails you lose. And if you don't like that, tails I win, heads you lose. That is not what I'm taking away from it. I would say, though, that among the things I've taken away are a deeper appreciation of empathy and of humanity. But I don't mean those the way they're usually meant. Empathy is putting myself in other people's shoes, and I just did an example of that when I mouthed that solution, which is the thing I've realized over the years is that I'm right about everything. That's me putting myself in their shoes, and I strongly recommend it. Get good at playing different roles and get good at the humanism of recognizing that those are roles that are in you too. Nothing human is foreign to you. We all have the same repertoire. So yes, the questions of degree matter a lot, and absolutism matters a whole lot. That is, when someone leans into one aspect of our repertoire, that gets really problematic. But nonetheless, everything that they do is stuff that I am capable of doing. So when I empathize now, I'm putting myself in another person's shoes, in part to ridicule them, but also to ridicule me. In humanism, when we talk about humankind or humanity or all that, we tend to evoke the idea of us as good, when actually we're pieces of work. We're really difficult. And I mean that in both of the ways that Shakespeare meant it when he said, what a piece of work is man. We are astonishing. We are visionary. We are also pieces of work. I mean, we're quite something to deal with. And that would be true of me too. So the empathy and humanity that I'm talking about are not this thing where I get to claim I represent compassion and sympathy and charity for everybody else, and I've known it all along, and that's what I do. That's what the Trumpists do. I don't want to go there. I want to recognize that those shoes that other people wear are my shoes too, to some degree. So I'm into empathy and compassion for all, meaning that by empathy, I mean that I can put myself in someone else's shoes. And by compassion, I mean I can remember what it was like to wear those shoes because I've done it too. And I do have to separate them from sympathy and charity, because there's no way I could be sympathetic and charitable to everyone, nor should I be. So at the extreme, I can imagine putting myself in Hitler's shoes and making his argument, a steelman argument for him, that he finds really powerful. Like he says, damn, Jeremy, you said it better than I could. And to remember when I had Hitlerian motives, because I have had them. I know what that's like. I often think back to a time when I taught a 100-student psychology class, and there was one upstart in the class who was giving me a hard time, and I wanted to shut him down. And I suddenly thought, oh, Stalin, Hitler, I get it. But I need a clutch pedal between that and sympathy and charity. That is, I would want to be able to put myself in Hitler's shoes, remember when they were mine, and slit his throat in cold blood. Empathy for my fellow human being does not mean charity to them. Can't do that. Now, early on in my evolutionary biology research, when I was getting into the questions that evolution by natural selection doesn't answer, I realized that there was a kind of dumbing down that we were doing. It was a vocational hazard in the sciences, And it was what I called the defaulty logic. Since they're wrong, it proves I'm right by default. Since they're so stupid, since the spirituality and religious approach to explaining life is wrong, it proves we're right. There was a lot of that going on in evolutionary biology, evolutionary psychology. The new atheists were doing a fair amount of that. Since they're wrong, it proves we're right about everything. I don't want to do that. So I don't want to do defaulty logic. And another version of it that I deal with is exempt by contempt, which is, since I have contempt for a trait that they express, it proves that I'm exempt from having it. It proves that I'm an expert at spotting it, and that therefore I wouldn't have it. I hate game players when they play games with me, and therefore I am an expert on who's a game player. And since I don't spot my own game playing, that proves I don't have any. That's exempt by contempt. So you got two terms here, defaulty logic and exempt by contempt, that amount to basically the same thing, which is, since they're wrong, it proves I'm right. And down that way that's the path to becoming a member of a self-winding movement. So now that we are perhaps beginning to fight back against the Trumpism, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about people who don't actually learn anything more than I was right all along, because it's not going to help us out. I actually want to see if you've got something more than that you've learned from it, and something about yourself. Of course, pointing out the flaws with others is a breeze, and it's fun. It's fun. We love to gossip. We love to gossip about the cluelessness of all the folks out there who aren't us. That is, present company accepted. That is, we are exceptions to the rule. Since they're fools, we must be geniuses. I'm struggling to get across this idea of present company accepted. That is, I'm human too. You're human too. That's one of my big takeaways from the whole Trump thing. I was already leaning that way, but in a way I'm doubling down on it. And I'm concerned at this point that we might end up gloating ourselves into future stupidity by saying, since they're so wrong, it proves we're right. That's the path of the self-winding movement. I don't want to be part of that, because the movement breaks down. It's just a self-glorification. It's a self-romanticizing. And I see some of it in the comments that I get on my videos. One of the standard comments, I get it over and over, is that there's no talking to them, there's no curing stupid, all of that. These people are kind of subhuman. I don't want to go there. We are all pieces of work to some degree, and degrees matter. But I want to be able to see in myself the same susceptibility I saw in them as they moved towards a movement that was resonant for them. It was easy for us to spot what was wrong with Trumpism. That's not our lifestyle brand. It's much harder to see it in your own lifestyle brand. It's easy to spot the cluelessness in people who aren't like you, but you are like them, just with different ornamentation. We have that in common, a blind spot about our own natures. There's that fun word that I just found for it a couple of weeks ago, isoptophobia, fear of mirrors. It's very natural in us, and I hope that we do not turn the Trump fiasco clusterfuck into a further excuse for not looking at ourselves in the mirror.